that's the thing. We keep continuing to innovate. We keep continuing to kind of figure out how we can push ourselves to grow, right? Back to that winning culture, building that winning culture. It really does start with our people, which those guys create the ideas, and then those ideas come alive in the form of products that help customers scale their business.
CPS America, there truly is a sense of a winning culture. I wanted to give you an idea of how that winning culture came about and how they're building upon it. CPS America has been in the United States for quite some time and has grown from 30 to now nearly 100 employees. Brian Wagner is the General Manager and President of North America, and I'm joined as well by Brian Baxter, one of his managers growing a team in the North America market. Brian, what could you tell us about the significance of the concept of winning culture and how you've infused it into the growth culture at CPS?
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for having us today and for coming by. I think it's great to be at RE Plus Northeast. And this is somewhere in our backyard that we have such a big following of customers. We're approaching 1,000 customers right now, working with CPS, and we've seen so many folks that have been working with us for many years. I think the customers really, we start with that as customer experience, and that customer experience, winning a project with them, turning the lights on, and then showing others within our company how they can come be a part of that. Giving them good training. Brian, now the Director of Sales in the East, managing a larger team. He actually started out as one of our customers.
Okay.
So really it does start with the customer, and they kind of help spread the word if you perform well. And even if you don't perform well, say from a hardware, you step up and you support the customers. I really think it starts with the service. So you got to start with the level of service, phone, email, showing up at the customers when they need, when the challenges are going on. And I think that's why Brian was attracted to coming to work at CPS.
Yeah, Brian, you are the Director of Sales for the Eastern region of the United States, and as I mentioned, you're growing a team here in the region, but you got your start with CPS, as Brian pointed out. There's a lot of Brians at CPS, you haven't noticed, as Brian pointed out, as a customer. Could you explain the experience with CPS that drew you to ultimately want to be a part of this team?
Sure. From the beginning, I was actually on the engineering side, and so I was doing designs of projects, all sorts of carports, ground mounts, and rooftop projects, and I was using CPS, actually among others at the time. And one of the things that I found was that the team at CPS actually stepped up, supported us as a customer when I was on the other side, and actually solved problems, picked up the phone, was available. So all of those things was just part of the process of really getting to know the CPS team and the culture more over time. So, I think that experience was actually a great starting point for me to actually learn more about them and then really work closely with Brian and the team and sort of understand where he's going with the company. So it was a great starting point for me.
Is there anything that stands out about the product technology, the way that they bring product to market that sets CPS apart for you as a customer and now as a team member?
Yeah, I think as the product side, it's definitely engineered for service and support, which is actually the core of the CPS business. We pride ourselves on being the best at service across the solar industry and actually now energy storage as well going forward. The customer is number one. You can't just leave them hanging. So, our product design is set from the beginning to allow us to actually support remotely at first, and then also with our field service team additionally if needed.
Brian, you all are the number one leader in the three-phase string inverter market here in North America. Behind us, we've got the 350 kW. One of the things that is amazing for me as someone who's been in the industry for 18 years is I remember when CPS introduced the first wall-mountable 30 kilowatt unit, right? It saved a lot of our backs and our storage rooms, and it made more possible. We were able to hang 30 kilowatts on on a parking structure, right? I remember CPS just changing the way that we think about the inverter unit and the concept of central versus string. I'd like to talk a little bit more as well about the 350, the 250, and some of the ways that you've expanded into storage today. Could you tell me a bit about the unit behind us, and then we'll shift perspective over to the 250?
Yeah, so I think back when CPS got its start, I was even at a former central inverter brand, and we had at that time, this was probably back, maybe 2010, 11, we might have had a 30 kilowatt that was like 3,000 pounds. This is 350 kilowatts, and it's 250 pounds.
Wow.
So I think, and that's the same weight as the 250. So as the technology gets better, you're able to, stretch your dial a little bit further, get more power, more punch in the device, and also your price per watt gets better and better with the same footprint. So, it is interesting how I think CPS has always been thought of as kind of one of the leaders in three-phase string nowadays, but we really are the pioneer of the technology for the U.S. market from the start. We really came in with our own product. We manufactured it from scratch. We developed it from scratch. So nowadays in CPS Labs, which is where we thought of this one, we really started working this in 2018.
Okay.
It's just we were waiting for the right technology to come. In 2019 is when we went ahead on the 250, 275. It didn't come to market till the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of time and effort in CPS Labs. We have a great product team, an excellent engineering team, and they just continue to innovate. So this is the latest product from CPS. We got UL back at RE Plus Las Vegas in September, and it's just getting into production. We actually have our first 100 units off the line now, so it's exciting.
What is it that was a limiting factor you were waiting for? You said you started the product all the way back in 2018, 2017. What was missing?
It's really the chips. It's really the physics. So the IGBT is the main part of the device that you can't make this thing bigger because then it becomes a central inverter. So you have to make it lightweight. You have to make it serviceable. So that's something we've continued to do, and I think. Yeah, we tend to be either first or second with the latest, largest power class.
Right.
But we try to think about CPS being flexible and having flexible, benefits, right? Many benefits in our design.
Yeah. As we've been discussing, CPS has innovated in a number of classes of inverter from 250, 275 to 350, notably making them increasingly lightweight and integrating things like the breaker box, product that they also brought to market in RE Plus back in the fall of 2023. Brian Baxter, as the director of sales, you receive a lot of inquiries from customers, but I imagine you hear a lot of the accolades. You're on the front lines. Sure. What are you hearing from customers that comes back to feed the innovation cycle that leads to these kinds of products? And then how are they being received in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think some of the feedback is obviously power densities. Any improvements that we can bring, number one, there is always a driver of lowering the cost per watt. So that's certainly one thing. Another addition is the performance of the products, I should say. And that is actually 12 MPPTs in this inverter, which is actually a step change from prior versions of inverters. So it's a very large inverter, but it's going to give you high performance, high level of data. And so in terms of servicing and support, you have all of the data that you need to actually keep those projects going.
Brian, for the uninitiated, what's the difference, like moving from 3 MPPTs to 12? And why does that matter from a balance system perspective?
So actually, just a couple of good points there. So when you increase the MPPT count, you reduce the mismatch, so you're going to have more yield. But also, as you have bifacial modules, which are out there now on the market everywhere, you have a lot of mismatch and differences between the different module types and sort of degradation as well. Yep. So over time, that's going to be another factor for performance. If you have a tracker system, which we see a lot more of those on the balance system side, you're going to have row-to-row shading and some other aspects that really the 12 MPPTs lets us take advantage of as much of the power as possible.
Fantastic. Maximum power point tracking. Go look it up. I'm sure there are plenty of other YouTube videos that will talk about maximum power point tracking. I'd love to hear more about the integrated systems. Notably, we don't really think that of CPS as a storage manufacturer, but you'd like to change that. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. One of the largest initiatives we have in the entire company globally is, chin bursting on the scene for energy storage. In fact, when I was at our R&D facility back in 2017 when we installed our first storage system, so on the global scale, we've done a ton of projects. We just brought online a 200 megawatt hour project with the products you see behind me, and I think the potential for the market to have multiple competitors coming in like ourselves, it needs a little bit more consistency. Obviously, the big name out there is Tesla. Everyone's a huge fan there. I think having, the ability to have customers have choice, we're just trying to bring more value to our customer. And I think as we bring more value, if you even think about back to the 275 for a second, you talk about all the benefits of saying going to 12 MPPTs. We're one of the few manufacturers that have First Solar modules are compliant with this product. Oh, wow. So actually First Solar's got the large American initiative. We're starting to deploy a lot more projects with First Solar modules. So another tip about that. But that's the thing. We keep continuing to innovate. We keep continuing to kind of figure out how we can push ourselves to grow, right? Remember back to that winning culture, building that winning culture. It really does start with our people, which those guys create the ideas, and then those ideas come alive in the form of products that help customers scale their business. Yeah.
Well, speaking of growth, not only your team, but your presence on the show floor continues to grow. Behind you, we've got what I can only imagine is a packaged skid of the various products, including Transformer, that you guys are bringing to market. I'd love it if you could, I'll just step over here a minute, if you could tell me a bit more. This is a sort of a scale model of what we have behind us in some way, right? Or is this different?
It's different. So the way we'd explain this is the larger skid here with the Transformer is what we call our battery. It's really called a PCS skid. We're coining the phrase battery string inverter skid. The reason folks, traditionally, if you think about solar 10, 15 years ago, string inverters didn't exist. So this behind us is actually a battery string inverter skid, whereas they're made up of 200 kilowatt blocks. These are all 200 kilowatt blocks. We won an award for this at RE Plus in 2022 for top solar products. And everyone today, all of the competitors are building central PCS. Right. So it's the same benefits of mismatch losses if the one unit goes down. I mean, this is going to be probably the only game in town 10 years from now, or one of the more popular ones for traditional C&I, and it's not just utility. And then this pairs with the battery container. This is a small scale, of course, not real, but a 5 megawatt hour battery container pairs with this PCS skid. So we're trying to, we manufacture everything. The only thing we're sourcing is the battery cell, which is from CATL on this particular version.
Yeah. So this is the string inverter equivalent of a packaged skid product where you can take an order from a customer and deliver to site all of the equipment in a bundle, essentially. All they do is connect it to the main interconnect, correct? It's all pre-wired in the factory for the plant, specific to the specifications of that customer's product?
Yeah, I mean, it is a full solution. And so I think that is going back to, our idea of trying to make everything go faster and easier for the customer. We're trying to deliver something that is one package and goes fast, but then also, in addition to having the serviceability that we talked about earlier, each one of these inverters slides out. Each one of these racks can slide out. So immensely more serviceable than the competition. So we're super excited about this product.
And it's 5 megawatt hours in a 20-foot container, which is the largest one in the U.S. right now, fitting on a 20-foot container.
So it is the most power-dense 20-foot container?
Correct, yes.
CPS America is always innovating in the product category, bringing pioneering technology to market, like we've talked before. And I think in many customers' minds, Brian, that is what CPS represents for them. Would you agree with that, or might you amplify?
I would definitely agree with that. I think, when you're inside our four walls, we think it's the winning culture that really is that's the secret sauce. The products are great, the company's great, the growth and the projections and keeping on pace with the industry is great. but we really know it starts with the people. It starts with our next hire, which we actually had one today. We actually made an offer to someone here today, and local person here in Massachusetts. So it's exciting. It's about getting the right people. We talked about, hey, winning, what does that mean to you? It wasn't about, did you finish first place in this or that? And, I think we've come from a lot of success, but I think it's more about, selecting the right folks and the right people that will want to help build the culture. They are the culture as they come in, and they help define our company. So we continue to win. We have to keep reinventing ourselves. That's what we're doing year in and year out. And it's no different now. This is a whole, mind shift to really try to figure out how do you stay number one in what you're doing while you go to try to, tackle the next thing.
Brian, I'd love to hear what, in addition to what you'd like to add to Brian Wagner's comments, you're leading a team at CPS. You've just hired someone else here in the region today, which is your region. They're going to support you in one way or another. What message would you have for someone out there who desperately wants to get into the industry? And maybe they're looking to try to decide, do I want to go into inverters? Do I want to go to a developer? What is it about the CPS culture that you hope attracts them to come work here?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think multiple things I would say. So number one is we're trying to build relationships, long-term relationships with our people and with our customers both. And so I think for one, you get that when you join CPS. We have a high rate of retention within the company for sure because of the culture that we've built. And then in terms of other folks trying to get into the industry, we certainly hire many that are outside of the solar industry. We're all growing, right? We have to do more of that, bring more people in. And then when they get in, they need a mentor. They need a way to train, to learn, to grow. And I think our team is building a training culture, building a learning culture, and a winning culture all at the same time. So we're super excited to do all that together.
And if you've been to any trade show in the last year, the CPS team rolls deep and they have fun. So if I can add that on top of all the wonderful things you guys have said about your team and your culture, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you've learned more about how the string inverter, the three-phase string inverter segment is expanding into utility scale. You just did a 90 megawatt system and coming to a solar farm, not just a rooftop near you. Tune in next time. Thanks for joining us.